US President Joe Biden gave his third State of the Union address this afternoon. He laid out the priorities of his government. It's only going to last until November, you would think, including on abortion, housing and education. Of course, he used the address to take some potshots at his political opponent, Donald Trump. I noted he never used Donald Trump's name once. Have a listen.
Now my predecessor, a former Republican president, tells Putin, quote, "Do whatever the hell you want." That's a quote. The last administration enacted a $2 trillion tax cut, overwhelmingly benefit the top 1%, the very wealthy and the biggest corporations, and exploded the federal deficit.
Joining me now to break this all down is Sky News contributor Kosha Gada. He was on form in terms of his delivery, because I think everyone in the United States and around the world who's interested in the US election was thinking, well, he's going to stumble at some point, get someone's name wrong or forget where he was. Didn't happen.
Very true. Stylistically, he was pretty high energy, actually,
Yeah.
which I think, but it's interesting that that's what everybody was focused on. Will he be able to make it through the 1 hour? He did. There were some portions maybe where there's a little bit of mumbling or incoherence, but overall he did well. Substantively, there's analysts who look at how many minutes were spent on which topic. The number one topic was democracy, which has become a flashpoint issue because it means different things depending on which side you are, and people sort of see.
I guess it gives him the opportunity to bring up the 6th of January again.
That's right, it does. But the other side sees what's happening with the legal system, going after his political opponent as defiance of democracy. So that's kind of a lightning rod issue, but he's speaking to his base. Israel and Gaza, that's tricky because there's a fracturing in his base, and he's sort of walking the line there where there's a big contingent of people that don't want involvement. And then immigration, which the Democrats are very weak on. However, it's become the number one issue in the country right now, so he had to address it, and he did.
He made the point that the United States is going to build a not permanent port off Gaza, and the US military is going to use that to quicken the amount of aid going into Gaza. Now, that's been interpreted by Biden's critics as pandering to the left of the Democratic Party, who think that Israel is doing the wrong thing in Gaza. That's a bit of a risk for him to take, because Middle America is, I presume, not all that comfortable about American armed forces getting that close. I mean, he said no boots on the ground, but there's ships on the coast.
Yes. I think a couple of things. So the critics don't like U.S. involvement. In general, that is an issue where there absolutely is a shift back towards non-interventionalism, whether it's Ukraine, whether it's Gaza, for sure. And also just U.S. military involvement in that region, even if it's not boots on the ground. He is, however, catering to that big faction in his party that is on the side of Gaza and Palestine in the Democrat Party, and it's really a tightrope that he has to walk in the primaries right now. There was a big group in Dearborn, Michigan. It's a heavily Muslim area that really moved away from him or came out as uncommitted. So I think that's the group that he's courting.
Do you think he dealt with the border issue well?
It depends.
I mean, it seemed to me that he sort of talked around it.
Yes, he did. It depends what the goal is. So if his goal was to speak to his base, which it is in an increasingly divided society that the U.S. is becoming with each day, it's a take. He said what they want to hear. If his goal is to speak to the independents, it might be a little bit more right-leaning. I don't think it would resonate. There was a lot of discussion that he didn't take the name of that young lady who was killed in Georgia by the illegal immigrant, for instance. That seems to be the thing bubbling up on social media that people are criticizing.
He talked about no child should live in poverty in the United States, but we see scenes of tent cities in places like San Francisco and LA and Chicago and New York. I mean, he can't avoid the fact that he has that issue, that problem. He's got millions of illegal immigrants that are coming into the country, and they've got nowhere to live. And there are children living in the United States, the wealthiest country in the world, in poverty. Yeah,
the polarization economically has only gotten worse. And it's easy to say that because those kinds of statements everybody agrees with. Yes, no child should live in poverty. So it's sort of an easy statement to give. But you're quite right. And in fairness to Biden, the outcome of that has been going on for decades. Many administrations have been perpetuating the immigration problem. And a lot of those cities that you mentioned have been run by one party, Democrats usually, for 80 years. And they keep getting reelected, and they're not running the cities well. So it's bigger than Biden. But you're right, none of the policies are suggesting anything that would change it. Yet it's a convenient talking point, and so I'm not surprised he went there.
Campaign running, so really. Kosha, thank you very much for coming in. Appreciate it very much.